Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
Summertime Unspun.
Summertime.
You know, we're going to get into the Vancouver Council. They finally broke last night for summer break. So we'll get into that. But that's, well, all the politicians are going away for summer break now. And
it's time.
I don't know what we're going to talk about next week.
You know what? We've said that for 32 weeks. I think we have had 1 week off in our entire Unspun run. Let's just reiterate for those who've just discovered us, because I've had a bunch of people say, oh my gosh, I just found your podcast with George-Affleck. You guys need to market yourselves better. It's like,
Is that a knock at me?
I don't know, but I had somebody say that and then they got mad at me because our marketing isn't better. I'm like, well, maybe you should look around a little. Maybe you guys should spread the word about Unspun podcast. The Orca.ca, an ever-growing publication and resource for all things politics in British Columbia and some opinion, lots of opinion in the Orca.ca as well. You sign up for the Fin and you get that direct to inbox sort of required reading every day. I love my Fin on Monday to Friday.
Love your Fin.
I love my Fin.
I love my Fin.
It comes in with all the links, and McLean K kind of tells me what I'm going to read a little bit, right?
It swims through the ocean of information and gives you a slick version of what you need to know for the day, like a shark in the ocean. I don't know.
Like an orca in the ocean. Jesus,
I got it.
George, You're slipping. We're a part of the resident
summer.
pod.
It's summer. I'm wearing a short sleeve t-shirt. I got You're
fantastic. Let's get into what we might have been doing this summer, if not for a global pandemic for the last 18 months. I mean, going back and forth across the border used to be just part of what we did in the summer. And it looks like in terms of Americans, fully immunized Americans coming to Canada, that's new this week. The federal government announcing that as of August the 9th, fully immunized Americans are going to be allowed to come to Canada with
Welcome to Canada
with a negative
COVID-19.
COVID-19.
All of our beautiful nature. Get up here. We need your money.
We need your money. Give us your money. But you got to have that negative PCR test within 72 hours of crossing the border, but no longer the test at the border, no longer the 3 days wait, no quarantine, whatever. You're just coming up. Not reciprocal though at this point.
Ouch. Yeah, I think that's disappointing, but I just think they don't really care that much. Because we know that vehicles like moving big trucks, they've been going across the whole time.
Essential. So
that kind of stuff, that because they need our stuff, but they don't necessarily need our people, I guess, financially, like we need Americans. So it's disappointing, but it's only a couple of weeks past ours, and frankly, was anybody planning on a road trip to the States or back and forth? I mean, I'm good. I'm good till September,
I'm good too.
Or October, or November. Whatever.
I would have liked to have gone to Point Roberts, though. I would go down to Point Roberts in the summertime.
The poor
for
people
sure.
at Point Roberts,
I know,
trapped in their little zone there.
Why
don't we just annex it? Just take it over. Just like move in and just tear the border down. It's Canada now. It's all Canadians, anyways. I think half of the Vancouver Sun and CBC lives there. I think half the journalists in Vancouver live there. It sounds like when I look at some of the tweets out there. I can't get to my place in Point Roberts. I mean, who are these people that have all these places in Point Roberts?
Smart people, because it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And if you bought it at the right time, super cheap.
That was my backyard growing up when I lived in Tsawwassen.
That's right.
I do want to point out, though, that Dr. Brian Conway of the Vancouver Infectious Diseases Center, he tweeted about the border not reopening on the U.S. side for Canadians to go south until the 21st of August. And he made a really good point. That 2-week window is an incubation period, because there is a real surge going on in some parts of the United States right now, the pandemic of the unvaccinated, right? Very, very proud of British Columbia, frankly, for hitting the targets that we are right now. We're over 80%, right? Over 80%.
As of today,
Yeah. And then
my son is getting his vax today. Second, my 13-year-old son, I don't know about yours, it's today at 5:00. I was like, whoa. He actually got ahead of his sister, who's 25. So
I love that. My son is getting his on Sunday. We were able to do it on Friday or Saturday. And you know me, I'm like, let's get there. But he's playing baseball. He's in the playoffs. And his game is on Saturday afternoon. So we're going Sunday morning. We don't want to,
Nice. No, you want to have your regular life.
It's going to be, I'm so excited to get back to the ballpark and enjoy some
hot dogs.
Yeah. Give me a goddamn hot dog. Give me a goddamn hot dog.
And maybe a beer, because, who cares anymore?
We all have beers in our coffee cups. We all do. We just do.
Really? Well, that's being careful. I mean, I think I just look around now. I was walked down down the West End in English Bay, and there was just garbage cans flowing of bottles and beer, just everywhere. It's like, I don't know where the people who like to pick up that stuff were, but this was just, what was it, on Monday, I think. I mean, it was interesting. And people are just kind of like doing their thing. Don't forget, there's only 22 parks that you're allowed to drink in Vancouver. Where are they? Who knows?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody knows.
No.
And where they are is usually dumb anyway. So,
yeah.
Anyways.
It's true. It's so true. Let's talk about the slow walk towards what finally happened this week in the state of emergency being called provincially.
Oh my God. Talk about when you talk about spin, there was I don't know who was informing the Premier on this one, but wow, they dropped the ball on this. I don't understand. It either was complete arrogance and uncaring and political because they didn't care about the interior where all the fires are and where there are only a couple of elected NDPers, or they were completely, just, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, it makes no sense. It was so bizarre. And they just pushed it, delayed. And it wasn't until really, the big public attention started to really pressure them. But I think they would have kept going for God knows why. Why? I don't understand why.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't. And you and I talked from Kamloops when I was up on vacation, literally went up there the day that Lytton was destroyed. Then I had, evacuation alert in the area that I was staying in. We had fires all around us, driving home from that vacation, through Kamloops. You couldn't even see them in the TNRD in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, which is just like, horse country and cattle country. You usually got big sky up there, right? You can see forever, and you couldn't even see your nose in front of your face because of the air quality there. I was speaking with Brett Manier, a colleague at Radio NL up there, and he's a great follow on Twitter when it comes to wildfires. And it was just, Brett was talking about how he came down to Vancouver. We had him on radio the other day. He talked about coming down to Vancouver for the weekend with his wife and seeing the blue sky. And he pulled over at Othello Road and got out of his car just to take a breath because it was just, he's lived in the smoke for almost a month.
Oh my God.
He came down and he spent 2 days and he looked around like, you guys are all living in a dream world down here. Is it the fact that it's not affecting this? Like it was visceral for him. And he's a very passionate British Columbian. Like he's not casting stones here. He's like, wake up. Right.
Yeah.
And then he talked about being really anxious about driving back to his home as he's coming over that Merritt Summit and hitting the wall of smoke. Like that it took this long, and then the excuse was, well, it was the weather report from last night. Because word was from Brett that Premier John Horgan had a conversation with the powers that be in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District who were saying, I think it was Mike Gillis, who was saying, we need a state of emergency. You need to pull that lever so we can undo some red tape here because we're full. We need evacuation spaces. We need, right? And he got a no. And then all of a sudden, what was just a couple hours later, it was like, okay, we're calling a press conference for tomorrow. And everybody's like, so tomorrow's a state of emergency call? Like, why? There was that.
It's just like, I don't, and then, I talked to Lauren Dirksen a couple of times when I was filling in at CKNW.
Yeah.
And, same thing, Lauren, I've known him for years and, he's an MLA, he's BC Liberal, he's new, but he's also totally, used to be the publisher of the newspaper up there, used to be a reporter. Then he was in car sales and now in insurance. The guy's, is very community focused and he's out there literally. I don't know if you saw the Global TV piece. He was actually out there helping on a ranch fight the fires with a hose.
That's what's happening up there.
Talk about an MLA getting down and dirty. And but he was just saying, again, I don't understand, even to take the politics aside, why would you say no to all the other things that come with a state of emergency? Perhaps we should put Bonnie Henry in charge of it. And then they would be, oh yeah, that's just whatever Bonnie says, we'll do.
I'm down.
Without her, they're just kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do.
Right. Being able to identify the emergency.
It's called now.
So the unspun piece of this also, in my opinion, and this is just my view, the slow walk toward it for me feels as though there was hesitancy because out of one state of a perpetual state of emergency, literally out of that frying pan into a fire, that is a state of emergency, that the public the overall public perception of that is just another layer of anxiety for the populace in British Columbia, which, could be argued on one side. An argument I personally don't agree with. I don't agree with that. I think states of emergency, provincial state of emergency are in place for a reason, and give people the access to what is needed to make decisions on the fly, because what we're seeing happen in the interior of British Columbia right now is astounding. It really is. Having witnessed it, I'm anxious even talking about it. But so I want to reiterate a couple of things that I've learned in the last 3 weeks, George. Have your go bag ready. If you're planning a trip to the BC interior right now, rethink that. If you're going to a hotel, probably best if you don't. If you've got a property there, make sure you're keeping your property. I keep talking to Carly D at BC Wildfire Services every day. She's coming on the air with me, and she's like, rake around your home, cut back the grass. You know what? Grass is fuel for fire. So dead grass.
Tell the park board in Vancouver that, please. Thanks very much.
Out of your lips to the deaf ears, can we just say? So you want to clear your gutters. You want to clear that dead brush that's around your house, anything that might be fuel. And they even are talking about, using your hose to soak what might be an area that's tinder dry, because that's a fact. It is super tinder dry. And we are hearing stories of people who aren't heeding the warnings from those who are trying to protect communities. If you're on an evacuation alert, pay attention. If you're on an evacuation order, get out. Get out, grab your photo album, grab your money, grab your ID.
There was an interesting, somebody made a point. I don't know where I saw this. Why we have this cell phone emergency system that why isn't that being implemented? I think it's a very good question. Can you geo-target it? So like people, you imagine in Lytton or something, if they'd all gotten a text saying, get the hell out.
That's a good idea. But we can't rely on that because there are people who don't have smartphones still.
No, but I mean,
but I get what you're saying.
Spread the
That's
word.
a good point.
It's never been used, apparently. It's never been used. It's been done by accident, as we know, in certain places in this country, but it's never actually been used in a state of emergency situation. And I wonder if that's because it's a province-wide thing. It's not just
geo-targeted, like you said.
If you could just do an area, imagine, to get out of there. Because, literally in Lytton, the mayor was running down the street, knocking on doors. I mean, that's not ideal.
No, I did speak with National Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan yesterday, talking about activating troops. There are troops ready. And in years past, those troops have had to do training, like Fort Mac. It took 3 days to get troops prepared to go to Fort Mac. Troops have been prepared on the national level since the heat dome. So
this is one of the things that Lauren Dirksen brought up, was that the people don't understand that if you're up anywhere where there's a fire, for example, in a state of emergency, you can take then those troops, and you've got an RCMP officer, you got two RCMP officers, because they have to do two duos in say roadblocks or stuff like that, or where they're trying. Now you can replace those either with both of them with a troop, and those officers who know the community and know their way around and know all about everything can go and do other stuff while they have two. Like there's things like that people don't think about as far as what you get in a state of emergency. Basics like that may not make, what's the big deal with that? It really makes a difference. If you've ever lived in a small town, that, generally the RCMP know everybody, and they know how to find the people that they know are probably the ones that aren't paying attention, who don't have cell phones.
I was going to say the ones that don't have cell service. Like you have to go down to the end of that lake because there's no cell service there. They have no reception on anything. They're
so having two RCMP officers sitting on a roadblock, helping people not come into a town or something, is not a good use of their time in a small town. And I think that's a really good point that epitomizes why a state of emergency. It wasn't just about cash. No. It's about, people on the ground doing the work that's necessary to keep people safe.
Yeah. And don't be dumb. If you're on a lake, I was hearing stories on Okanagan Lake where, first there were drones. Like, don't be an idiot. Don't put your drone up and ground the people who are flying, the skimmers that are dropping retardant on these hot zones. And also people that are like, look, the skimmers are coming in a group of 7. Let's get in the boat and run out to the center of the lake and watch up close.
Oh my God.
Come on. I can't with that. So I actually wrote down here, don't be dumb. So I just don't, how about that?
I actually have that pasted everywhere around me all the time because I have to remember.
Yeah. Don't be dumb, George.
I should have said, we were out for dinner the night and I had a couple of glasses of wine, and Amanda kept saying, "Hey, just voice down." Because, sometimes I tend to say what I think when I'm not, even here I do it, but
I love that about you.
Worse in private life when I start ranting about stuff.
That's why Anyways,
don't be dumb, George. Don't be dumb.
I don't go out for dinner much because I get loud with my opinions. Hey, yes. On a good note, in terms of how to help, a lot of people saying, how can I help? How can I help? What can I do? Obviously, Red Cross. Obviously, there's the FraserValley.ca, because there's a Hope center that is taking donations, cash donations, to support people who have been evacuated and really have nothing right now. FraserValley.ca if you want to find out more about that. And you can help with the SPCA. They're doing a half price adoption thing right now because it does cost to adopt from the SPCA. But in order to try and make room in the shelters for animals displaced by wildfires, they are giving you a discount over the next little bit. So if you've been looking to adopt, now's your time. You can help support the BC SPCA. spca.bc.ca is their address online. You can find out more there. And even if you can't adopt, donate money, donate food for the pets and animals. Maybe volunteer time if you have some time and try and, help out.
These station identifications brought to you for free on UnSpun. If you'd like to be a paid advertiser.
Yes. See how far this reaches.
Send your money.
Oh my God.
To Jody and George, and we will talk about your product or service. But those ones were free.
Those ones were free. Good. You're right. I'm just like, here's all the websites. But let's talk about some municipal politics here. School me on the council. And or should I abstain?
Yes. Yeah, we'll get to that. So last night was their last council meeting. They made it through, what is it, July? It's actually the 22nd. So that's pretty good for them. So they did the last council meeting before summer break. So now they're gone until the end of September. They had a lot of stuff on the agenda. I've never heard of this before. There was over 60 staff reports, like 60? More than that. 60 there were actually a lot more than that, but they approved over 60 of them on consent, and that means the reports were there in their big binders or online, and these are staff reports about whatever, a whole bunch of different things. And usually you pull at the beginning of a council, you pull certain reports to go to discuss them, maybe to vote on them separately, to talk about them, to get ask staff questions, amend them if they're like you like to amend. This council loves amending staff reports so that the staff are like, what am I doing now? Anyways, over 60 were passed on consent, means that they didn't even talk about them. They all just went all together, passed, goodbye. And staff who are ready for a whole week of this council's,
minutia.
We're like, okay, bye. Summer break.
I wonder what those. So where do we see a list of those? Where do we see a list of
online? Online, it's on Vancouver.ca. The what's interesting, it makes you wonder about this council, because they also had a heavy debate yesterday on the Vancouver Plan, which is the new city plan, which is the first iteration. Basically came through, and they had the motions or the revisions and the tweaks and this and end on. Anyways, it
is that our Shape Our City or Shape Your City or whatever? That survey, right?
Yeah, no. This is the Vancouver Plan, so it's the whole citywide plan. There's a lot more to go on that, but they passed this first version of it after much debate, so that's a big deal. And there was a couple of small things, but what's interesting, it begs the question. It's July. There's now the elections in a year and a bit, so there's only 1 year left now. So they have two more terms, like two more sessions, fall and then spring, and then they're spring summers. You only get a week off in between spring and summer sessions. So really, they've got a year left. And so I think it was Frances Beulah posed this on Twitter, who I'll be talking to tomorrow on NW about the year. But she posed that question. Now we're done that, and we've got 1 year left. What is this council going to look like over the next year? Because it's an election. Now we're truly going to be heading into an election year, and jockeying and positioning, especially with all these independents and all these people running for mayor. And it's going to, will they get anything done? Not that they got much done in the last 3 years. Now they're really not going to get anything done, or they're going to be doing so many vanity, motions that are related to what they want to position themselves to get reelected. And they're going to be jockeying for these. It's just going to be a mess of a year, I think. What's interesting, there
gives us lots to talk about.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be lots to talk about. What was interesting was, I think you brought it up, was Mount Pleasant. There was a vote on Mount Pleasant thing, which I thought was on policing and Gene Swanson's motion, I believe.
Yeah,
which is
Gene Swanson, who doesn't want the VPD involved in any way, shape, or form, and it's bringing it to the table, the community safety plan for Mount Pleasant, and Mayor Kennedy-Stewart was sort of on the other side of it, going, I don't think we can vote as to whether or not the VPD is involved or not, given we haven't even talked to them about it. Like, it's really sort of piecemeal, random. And the exchange between the two got a little
the man who's the most random mayor and piecemeal mayor that we've ever had. But okay.
But it got a little contentious, to say the least, according to reports. Toby Kerr did a report on this at CKNW. And it was
yes, I heard it.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it was interesting. It was a very close vote, and the deciding vote was somebody who you would have thought would have been supportive of kind of a defund police, and that was Pete Fry from the Green Party. He actually voted against this motion, and therefore it lost in the chamber. And I thought that was interesting. And Pete, I think, lives in Strathcona. So yeah, it was interesting. And otherwise the typical alignment was left versus right on the spectrum for the motion. So
splits.
Yeah, it's
you know what, George, we didn't talk about hitting on this prior to in our pre-show meeting, but did you see the visuals out of Toronto? The police.
They're removing the camp. I mean, that's an example, pretty powerful images, but it's what a lot of people were calling for in Vancouver. And I think you see that and you go, okay, that doesn't work.
No,
that's not good.
That's how I felt. I'm
as
like,
much as you might
imagine.
Here? As much as you might imagine, just go down there and get them out of there. Which is a lot of people were, I know. And you saw, and it was almost like, I saw one cop was like literally standing there going, just kind of like weirdly in a state of like euphoria, weirdness. And I thought, well, that's not good. He's way too excited about this in a way that you should not be. I know it's like this, where is the middle, as you say, in between that and what we did? I think there is, and
I think it's
also
for me,
not letting it grow like that.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. Is you don't let it become an out of control established nightmare. Once these things start happening, identify the people and the need, and then fill the void of the need. Because what we end up spending on the other side of this, what do they call it? Remuneration? Is that what's happening at Oppenheimer? What is it?
Well, the thing is that it's tough, but it's, if you let these things grow, we know it every single time what happens. It's this dirty element of crime gets involved, and it's nasty, and it starts to become intimidating for the people in these campsites. So therefore, we know that people are camping all over our city, and there's little ones popping up here and there, but you can't let them grow to this massive level. But you also can't let that happen and then do what they did in Toronto. It's just not a good look, and it's also dangerous.
It's a human rights abomination, being militant to that degree. It was an overt use of force, in my opinion.
Very
watching that, like, I can see how that then creates that divide between the impoverished and police. I mean, we see that on our streets here. We're not immune to that for sure, but that was a real overt example. I was embarrassed for our country that happened here. It just doesn't, there's got to be a better way. And this sort of, I don't know, it looked really testosterone fueled, and that's not a slag on all men, but there was that like, we're going to go get these guys. It's like, oh God.
No, that's what I noticed too. That too.
Yeah, it was weird.
So anyway,
speaking of, if I may, can I, this is a bit of a contentious topic. My column this week, I'm a horse person. I'm a crazy dog lady. I'm an animal person. I'm a horse person. I grew up with around horses. My first ever job was taking out trail rides at Beach Grove stables. I took care of 32 horses a day for like $5 because I loved it. I would cross off on my calendar each year and count down to the Cloverdale Rodeo. I also love the P&E and the the 4-H corner, the barns and whatnot in the agricultural area at the P&E for the same reasons. The human rights complaint that has been levied against the Cloverdale Rodeo and Exhibition Association is an astounding read. I received it. It's a public document. I read it. I wrote my column about it. So go to the orca.ca and see my most recent column. It's not about naming names. For me, people need to be held accountable for sure. That needs to happen. But my column is about, I cannot believe that in 2021, after all that we've been through, Me Too and all that, this municipal and provincial funded agricultural association has no reporting process. None. There's no way, if you work in that group, and you're harassed, bullied, racism directed at you, there's nowhere to go to report that. How is that even possible? How do taxpayer dollars go towards an association that doesn't have that infrastructure built in? It is a huge fail for me, and
it's a
for so
failure
many.
of the board for sure, and not to have systems and procedures like that. I mean, related to every small business should have that. Everybody should have that. They're easy to find. They're easy to create. Especially related to sexual harassment, because as an employer, I know that as far as you need to have this stuff in place because it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
And staff don't necessarily know what to do if they do feel harassed. They don't know, especially if, they just don't know if there's no process, they then either it gets really weird or bad. Or, if they just need to have a process of this so that there's, a way to kind of deal with it and whatever it might be,
it's a
whatever
human
the
right.
results of that might be, and not have that in place of an organization of that level and stature is quite shocking. And, I think that it'll be interesting to see how 21 people, that's a lot of people.
I was just going to say, they stopped at 21 because the reporting got to be so large that the lawyer at the center of it said, we'll be here for years and years and years. And where there's smoke, there's fire. Everything here is an allegation. But when you read through those allegations within the human rights complaint, the overlapping of evidence from one to the next. And honestly, George, being a woman of a certain age, a Gen Xer, I've come up through the ranks of the sports broadcast world at that. I mean, throw another layer on it. I've had a lot of great experiences, but I've had a lot of experiences that I thought, these are just the things that I have to deal with to be doing what I want to do. That's going away now, as it should. But it's on us as a generation of people who have witnessed it to be a part of the voice to ensure that the next generation coming up does not deal with this. Men, women, non-binary, wherever you might land on the sexual spectrum, but also the Black, Indigenous people of color. The racism alleged in this complaint is astonishing. It's astonishing. Yeah.
I will not abstain from agreeing with you, if you know what I mean.
Thank you. What does abstaining mean in council? Like, can we just hit that for the 1 minute that we got left in this?
Sure. Well, this was, I don't understand. I never saw the kind of abstentions that you see in this council when I was there. It's unheard of. The number of all of them seem to be doing it. And in the end, an abstention is a vote in favor of anything you do. Generally, that's the rule of order. But there was this quote or a paraphrase in an article in cityhallwatch.com, which is a local political blog, and talked about Colleen Hardwick. And the reasoning that they said that she likes to abstain is because it's not that she disagrees with the report. It's that she wants to send a message to staff that she doesn't like all of it. And that this was a message that I kind of like it, but not a lot. It's, you vote against if you don't like the report and you think it should be fixed, then you vote no down. And you say, send it back, fix it, bring it back. And that's also why you shouldn't be amending these staff reports to a certain level. You say, this is not good enough. Here are some clear
Here are the notes.
Guidelines that we think you should, here's some notes, go away, come back with a better report.
Yeah.
To abstain on anything, to me, is not why I voted for a person in this city or any elected person. Your job is to make a decision on my behalf. I may not always like your decision, but to abstain and to do it so often as Colleen does and other people in this council, it's shocking and need to be
abstaining should only be if you have a vested interest or something. If there's a conflict of interest, if there's a reason why your vote
you don't vote.
You recuse yourself, right?
Recuse yourself.
No.
And by the way, Mike Weeb, that decision came down this week. We didn't talk about that. The decision that Mike Weeb was in no conflict.
That was at the patio thing, right?
Yeah, the patio and the vote on the patio, and he had a business that got the first patio permit. Anyways, he got off on that one. So there won't be any by-election. But anyways, I just think, come on. And, we're going into an election year, as we talked about earlier, and these councillors are going to be really held accountable, especially if they're all running as independents. People are going to be, looking at their track record and asking them tough questions.
And by people, it's going to be us. We're going to go through every candidate for council and every candidate for park board. And we're going to talk. We're going to point to their records, and you're going to find it all here on UnSpun podcast. And you're going to follow George _Affleck on Twitter at George_Affleck. I'm at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, Vance. You're George at cknw.com. I'm Jody at cknw.com. We got so many email addresses and tweets and Twitters. Send us your ideas.
I'll be Mike Smith for the next 2 weeks, starting tomorrow morning. If you want to listen to CKNW, and you're going to be Phil afternoon, right?
I'm afternoons, Monday to Thursday, until they name a new host. I'm just the fill-in gal. You're the fill-in dude. We're working together.
We're taking over CKNW part-time.
Let's do it.
Part-time gigs.
We'll have summer in September, dude. We'll keep everybody posted.
See you at the beach.
Bye. With a drink.
Bye. Yes.